following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go! Go! Dallas Cowboys!
Happy birthday, Dallas Cowboys!
Should we sing?
You can sing.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Go ahead, Jonathan. Before you were a ventriloquist. I mean, archivist.
I'll start it off if y'all join me. How about that?
No, we're good, I think.
All right.
But we are here on a very special occasion.
Yes, we are.
Shannon Gross, host of Hanging with the Boys. Kurt Daniels, my co-host on Hanging with the Boys, to my right.
Yes.
And across the podcast room from us is Jonathan Thorn, the Dallas Cowboys archivist.
Archivist.
Yep.
What's up, Jonathan?
Jonathan has my favorite job here. If I want to grow up and be Jonathan.
Do you really?
Oh, all the archive stuff. Oh,
Yep.
it's amazing.
So we
It's a
had
lot of
you.
fun.
We had you on the show on Hanging with the Boys one time a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Kind of teasing this. We thought we were going to have you back on Hanging with the Boys, but we don't go until tomorrow, so we didn't want to wait. So we're doing a special kind of one-off podcast where we're kicking off the 60th anniversary of the Dallas Cowboys. Was it the football club in the beginning, or what was their actual name?
Yeah, so on this day, when we were granted the franchise, we were still the Dallas Rangers Football Club.
Really?
That name wasn't changed till April 8th, 1960.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were the original? Because it's in one of the cases out where we eat lunch in the training table that you walked by on the tour. That was the Rangers, the Steers.
Yeah, so those were other names they were contemplating. Mm-hmm. The Hustlers, the Wranglers, the Steers.
The Hustlers. That would have
Yeah,
been
the
a great
Hustlers.
name.
That would have been
The
so
Red Dogs, I think,
Red
was one of them.
Dogs.
And the Cowboys
Yeah.
was in the mix.
No, not
the
originally.
Cowboys came, towards the end.
Really?
So actually, as the season goes on, a lot of those secrets will be revealed in one of our Deep Blue documentaries that'll be coming up.
Oh, very cool.
I could tease that.
Yeah, tease it. You just did, I think. So we'll see how this goes. We may bring you in as part of Hanging with the Boys from time to time. We may do these from time to time just as kind of special one-offs. So we'll see how that plays out. But you've got a couple of documents. So we're going to get into today is kind of the beginning of the franchise, and then we're going to get into, you can't talk about the beginning of the franchise without talking about Bob Lilley. So you've got some really cool audio clips we're going to play, talk about them. Got some cool photos. But the first thing is the way that the Cowboys actually became a franchise. You have the original documents, not copies, the original pieces of paper. Tell us what's sitting in front of you.
Yeah, so with our press release that came out today, it showed the minutes from the meeting showing that we were granted a franchise. And we had these sitting around in the archives as well. I thought were pretty cool, so I'll try to get it to the camera. This is the original letter sent to the commissioner of the league at the time, stating that they had enclosed the application for the franchise as well as the check, the certified check for the application fee. Interesting, it was sent on December 28th of 1959, so a month before today. They applied.
Wow.
Like formally applied. And then a month later was granted the franchise.
How much was the fee?
So the fee was $25,000. That's in 1960. That's a lot.
That's a hell of an investment.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a
Yeah.
bargain the way that turned out.
Yeah.
Well, and they knew that after that they were going to have to pay $550,000 for the franchise and the players. This was just the application fee. So it was quite an investment.
So
in
that's like
1960.
going to pay you go look at an apartment and there's a
PSL
application
license.
fee.
Yeah.
So that ain't even your rent.
Nope.
That's just your
Yeah.
25
of course.
grand was just the application.
Clint Murchison was, at least his father, was one of the richest men in America, wasn't he?
Yeah, his father was. Actually, Clint, when he was living in those early days, I think was in the top. I think at one point he may have been the richest man in the United States. He was one of the top 5 for sure.
His father.
No, him.
Oh, him himself.
Him and his
Okay.
brother aggregated together, they were one of the richest families still in the United States. And his father definitely was.
Pocket
at that
change
time.
then.
Yeah. But we actually have the check, kind of the check receipt from the bank. So,
Oh, wow. Look at that.
and you'll see Dallas Rangers Football Club Incorporated. 1959.
That's pretty cool. And for those of you that are just listening to this, it's not that interesting, but it looks really cool if you're
cool.
watching the video. So,
Yeah, and the really cool thing is that we have these things.
Where did you find it?
Most of the stuff would be gone. So this was found in a file folder that really contained all of the founding documents and legal documents, everything related to the franchise starting. Correspondence, legal documents, checks, all that stuff.
So they had kind of already, they knew what they had, and they were going, because you found some stuff that was literally about to be thrown away.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of this, the bulk of it was found there, and we've been finding other stuff. The check we actually found in a pallet of stuff that was slated to be shredded. But luckily, being here,
Wow.
they knew to reach out to me, hey, come
Yeah.
look at this before we shred it. It looks old. So we went out there and dumpster dived and found it.
so is everything, I'm assuming everything is secure now, right? It's in a secure
It is.
location.
Everything I know about is secure.
Can I
Yeah.
tell people where a lot of this, not the exact location, but where a lot of this stuff was housed?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to do that?
Before we found it, as
Before we secured it. Now it's secured.
Yeah.
You can't get to it. This stuff was literally, if you go get a storage unit and
Yeah.
you're moving and you don't have enough room in your apartment or your house or you're
Yeah.
storing things. If you ever go watch Storage Wars on TV, they had how many different ones? I only went to 2 different
Well,
ones.
different departments had different
Yeah,
ones.
it wasn't
so
like one Dallas Cowboys one. They were
And they
spread
had,
all over the
they
place.
had a
wasn't it?
padlock on the door. That was it.
yeah.
Like you got all this memorabilia that's worth, some of it's priceless. Like and it had a padlock on it just
Yeah.
because there was nowhere to put this stuff.
what really kept it safe is no one knew it was there.
Right.
Yeah.
And like this check though came out of pallets that were in a different department's storage units in a different storage unit building location that ended up making its way through 2 or 3 different places it was stored, and then finally I found it in one of our current locations.
Because probably a lot of these departments didn't know that it existed. They're
Yeah.
like, well, we got a
Oh,
storage
yeah.
unit that's just got a bunch of
They
old
were being lazy
papers.
and didn't want to throw it away. So they just, we'll just shove it on to the next
Yeah.
place. Thank goodness.
Wow. That's
Well,
so
we
cool.
actually got really lucky with that when the Joneses purchased the team in '89. They really kind of mandated that all that stuff be kept, and that's what's allowed us so much of what we have.
Yeah.
Was because when they bought it, and usually it's the opposite. People come in, companies, whatever
Yeah,
it is,
they
they
don't-
buy it and say, get rid of everything from
Right.
the old regime, toss it. But they knew better than that. So
Wow. Thank goodness they did.
Yeah.
We're on the show today because of it. And Jonathan,
That's right.
Jonathan
I'm here
has a
because
job.
of it.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right, so we got some audio clips. For those of you that aren't watching, this will probably be better for you because this is all audio. So well, there's actually some photos too. But so what are we getting into? We got about 6 or 7 clips, right?
Yeah, so I thought this would be kind of neat because Bob Lilley being the first player we drafted, so that was actually 1961. Our first draft pick, our first Hall of Fame inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, nicknamed Mr. Cowboy, played from 61 through 74. I mean, doomsday defense,
Doomsday
won a
one.
Super Bowl.
One, yes.
What else? Who else would be more representative? So these clips are of the first Ring of Honor induction ceremony. So that was actually
At Texas Stadium.
at Texas Stadium on November 23rd, 1975.
So 75.
So this is when Tex Schramm started the Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And
Was
the-
he the, because that was less than a year. Now there's a bit of a waiting period. Was he the quickest one? You know?
well, I think they started the Ring of Honor because of his
him.
retirement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense. So they didn't need to wait for anything.
So the crazy thing, speaking of artifacts you find, is these came from a tape recording that was recorded off the mixing console at Texas Stadium. That survived. We had
And I heard you played them in my office before we came down here. For this to be 1975 and for them to record it off of a cassette, it actually is pretty darn good audio.
pretty good. That's because it came out of the board. It wasn't linked up to something else where you get signal loss.
Yeah.
So at least you had that. And that the tape itself was environmentally controlled enough to stay in good shape.
Right.
Like that could have
In that storage unit with the
been
padlock.
terrible.
yeah.
So what's his first clip?
So the first one's actually the introduction to the ceremony. And you'll see a photo, Bob Lilley. So this was a season after he retired, 75. and he comes running out of the tunnel, but they had him suit up in a full uniform just without pads for one last time.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, so this is...
Is this at a game at halftime?
Yeah.
Is that what this?
I believe this is before the game.
Okay, so at the
I think
stadium
it was
before the game. Okay.
And this is against Philadelphia, which we won 27-17.
Okay.
So here's the introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Lilley Day. We are here today to honor the man most regarded as Mr. Cowboy. Introducing the Dallas Cowboys starting lineup. At defensive tackle, the greatest cowboy of them all, number 74, Bob Lilley.
So that's how they introduced him into, I guess, running out on the field. It was just like they were
Have you
starting the
seen that?
lineup.
Have you seen those photos?
I have not.
They're just funny because he is in full uniform and he's just kind of standing there, like, okay.
Yeah, no pads.
A little awkward.
Yeah, when you look at him with his hands on his hips, the viewers will see that in a little bit. It is a little awkward looking.
It's very awkward.
We've come a long way in our presentation because it's a wire mic stand on a half-painted podium box. So
awesome.
That's them bringing him out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for all the fans, so then we have Frank Lieber, who's the master of ceremonies, and he shares his thoughts. He's a play-by-play guy for a long time, starting in Bob Lilley's first year. And interesting tie-in is Frank is actually Craig Lieber's dad, and Craig works here.
Yeah,
to this
Craig.
day.
So Craig is the one when we go on road trips, we go to training camp. He's the one that goes out before us, schedules all the logistics, the buses that pick us up from the airport. He gets the hotel rooms. He does his job is. I would imagine most of his work is during the off season, and then during the season he's just kind of spinning plates to make sure
Keep everything rolling.
Everything's on schedule. All the meeting rooms are set up and everything. And Glebes has been here. Hell, I've been here almost 16 years. Glebes has been here way before I was. So I didn't know.
It's quite a job.
I didn't know this was his dad. So that's actually really cool. So
yeah, it's got a long history associated with the Cowboys here. So I guess we can play that one, and then we'll keep moving.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your master of ceremonies, the voice of the Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Frank Lieber.
This is a memorable day for many of us who have known Bob Lilley. My first year of doing play-by-play broadcasting in the National Football League was Bob Lilley's rookie year. So I've been fortunate to follow him through the course of his great career. There are a lot of things that stick out in my mind. One of the things, the great example that Bob has set for youngsters, thousands of them across this country, as a true example of what an American athletic hero should be.
So that was Frank, right?
That was Frank, yeah.
And then they did something really strange after that, right? Well, kind of strange.
Well, they did a lot of strange. So he was given a lot of gifts, and one of them I won't give away because you're going to hear the audio clip. But it was a little bit after Frank, they gave him a brand new 1976 station wagon. Don't know the maker model, but
for being in the
riding in style.
Yeah, you got a brand new car.
Station wagon.
Yeah, for his life after football. Actually, Leroy Jordan, on behalf of all the 1975 Cowboys, gave him a Browning over and under shotgun because he's such a sportsman.
Uh-huh.
And Tex Schramm gave him, for the same reason, a 8-month-old German short-haired pointer for a hunting dog.
So he got,
whether he wanted it or not, he got a dog.
So he got inducted into the Ring of Honor. He got a shotgun,
a rifle, and a 4-wheel drive.
a car, and a dog.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
They had to make sure he was going to be a cowboy for life there, right?
Yeah.
So this next clip is also interesting with Frank Lieber. He called every play of Bob Lilley's career.
Did he really? So he was the Brad Sham before Brad Sham.
Play-by-play guy from 60. He started in 61 when when Lilley was drafted. So he called every play. And Bob Lilley started, let me just check my notes, 196 consecutive starts. And he never missed a regular season start in his entire career.
Witten broke his record, didn't he, a couple of years back? Wasn't that a record?
He went and broke the record, but I don't remember if somebody had broken it in between or not. Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have to look it up. Maybe I can find that.
Look that up while we. So what's this next clip there?
This next clip is people that remember the olden days. Jerry Kramer from the Green Bay Packers, the guard, famous Ice Bowl, all of that. They actually brought him in to talk about Bob, to kind of represent all of the different teams' opponents that Bob had faced for all those years.
Next, we have a man who represents all the foes who played against Chuck Howley in his glorious years, and who could more epitomize the foes of Bob Lilley's career than a representative of Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers, the former All-Pro guard of the Green Bay Packers, who will long be remembered for his role in the famous Ice Bowl game, Jerry Kramer.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that's the first round of applause I've ever received in Texas. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today to honor a guy like Bob Lilley, a guy that's my kind of guy.
Interesting. I'm surprised they brought in a
you would
opponent.
You would think that they would have his old teammates.
Yeah.
If they brought somebody from the Packers in, that is real interesting.
Flew him in just to do that. Yeah. Well, the next one we've got, I thought it was very fitting on our birthday. Original owner and guy who brought the franchise to Dallas, Clint Murchison Jr., speaks to Bob as well.
Real pleasure for me to be here today to honor a guy like Bob Lilley, a guy that's my kind of guy.
Next up, also representing Cowboy management, the chairman of the board, Mr. Clint Murchison.
Bob has 4 little Lillies. I'm not sure how to call them little. His youngest, who's about 6 months old, and I think he's here today, isn't he, Bob? Bob told me that he's growing so fast that he creaked at night. Well, because we want the 2 boys to be cowboys in the future and the 2 girls to be cowboy rooters in the future, we're starting a scholarship fund.
Scholarship fund.
So very generous.
Nice.
Not something you normally equate to being inducted into the sports.
Normally you start a scholarship fund that lives on for people coming up through programs, not for someone's kids that just retired from the NFL. That's,
Well,
that's
I guess,
strange.
Back in those days,
They didn't make that much money.
Didn't make much money.
Yeah.
Clint was balling.
So he got a shotgun, a station wagon, a dog,
pretty good
scholarships
and
for his
4
kids.
scholarships for his kids. That's pretty awesome.
Pretty good retirement package there, huh?
Okay.
I love hearing Murchison's voice. He's just you big powerful billionaire. It's like a little bit of it.
Has that little voice. Well, the next clip, it's really probably kind of the seminal clip for this deal here is it's Tex Schramm, president and general manager for all those years, explaining that they're starting this Ring of Honor and that they're going to enshrine Bob Lilley's name in Texas Stadium forever. And when you listen carefully, you can even hear them at the part where they're pulling the curtain down off of his name, where everybody's watching. So.
Representing the management of the Dallas Cowboys, the president and general manager, Texas E. Schramm.
Bob, this is one of those once-in-a-lifetime occasions when you have the opportunity to honor one of your very own, particularly when that person is one of the greatest football players that ever played the game. Well, Bob, as we have talked about, this doesn't signify the end of an era. It's just a historical point in a great personal career that you have had and are going to continue to have, and a high point in the history of the Dallas Cowboys. So at this time, we want to announce that we are creating a Dallas Cowboys Court of Honor, of which Bob Lilley will be the first. And for those of us here because Bob will never pass from our memories. We are also permanently putting his name in this stadium where all of us can see it and those that follow us can see it. And if you'll all turn your eyes to the press box in back of the Cowboy bench, you'll see a living memorial to Bob that will be there for many, many years to come. Pull harder.
Pull harder. Get this man in the old Court of Honor.
The Court of Honor.
Technical difficulties.
Never knew that. So this started off as the Court of Honor, not the Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
huh?
so this is just kind of when it first started. I don't even think they really knew exactly what they were, how it was going to go. They knew what they wanted to accomplish, but
this was kind
Court of Honor.
Schramm, and it was Schramm's baby. He decided it, and it was the teams. They didn't want to retire numbers, right? Because there's so many players. So this was a way to retire him, I guess, without that. Yet, nobody's ever worn Lilley's number since.
Well, they actually did retire it in the ceremony.
Oh, they did actually. It's officially retired.
Well, he retired it in the ceremony.
Okay.
And then what his idea was that Court of Honor, as they add players over the years, could be a body to reinstate that jersey, for instance, to a player that comes along in the future they feel is worthy of it. So I think that's kind of gotten lost over the years and all that. But at that ceremony, Tex Schramm officially retired the jersey.
I did not know that.
I think a lot of people are confused on that.
Yeah.
So.
I always thought we never retired.
No, nobody's ever worn it since.
Yeah.
Right.
So, in the regular
it's true.
season. That's amazing.
Probably hadn't been anybody quite worthy of that
I
since
guess
either.
not, yeah.
Speaking of that, his success, there's another person who had a big part of Bob Lilley's success and that defensive success, and that was his coach. The only coach he had, Tom Landry. And this next clip, Landry is actually introducing Bob at the end and talks about how great of a player he was and what it was like coaching him. But he was also fortunate to have such good coaching throughout his entire career.
Let me introduce to you now the only head coach that Bob Lilley ever had in the National Football League, Tom Landry.
Thank you, Frank. I think it's right that the first Cowboy to have his day would be, of course, one of the greatest players that we've ever had, and that's Bob Lilley. Of course, all of us who have coached him, who have played with him, and you fans who have watched him, I think it would be almost unanimous that he is probably Mr. Cowboy as far as the players through the years. I think one of the greatest thrills there is for coaches is to have the opportunity in their career to coach a player with outstanding ability. And I think of all the outstanding players that I've coached through the years, and I've coached many of them, I'd have to say that Bob Lilley was the best that I've ever coached. It's really a privilege and an honor for me to present to you, the fans, probably one of the greatest professional football players of any era, Bob Lilley. Bob?
What a thing to be said about you by Coach
By
Landry.
Tom Landry.
Greatest player I ever coached.
Yeah. And
I'll take that.
What's really cool about all this is you hear about these, this podcast isn't for everybody, obviously, but for your hardcore history nuts and your Cowboy fans that really know about this team, you hear about Tex Schramm, you hear about Clint Murchison, you hear about Bob Lilley. You see a little bit with Bob Lilley these days, and you hear about Tom Landry, but you don't ever really hear them talk
it's cool
a lot.
to hear them,
It's kind of
right.
And even when you heard Landry talk, it was later on in his career, and his he was older and his voice had changed. But to hear these guys like in their prime, to put a voice with the pictures you see is really cool. So
yeah, absolutely. Then lastly, we have Bob. He comes up just for a minute and gives his final parting thoughts.
It's awfully hard for me to convey my thoughts at this moment. I would like to say that there's only one thing in football that you love besides your teammates and sometimes your coaches. That's the fact that you compete on Sunday. That's what football is all about. That's what made this country great, was the competition. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed meeting all the players from other teams in the Pro Bowls and the other things. I love my teammates. We had our ups and downs. I just want to thank the Cowboy organization for being here and for the opportunity that I had to be a player on these teams that we've had in the past. I wish to thank all the other players in the NFL for the excitement that they've provided me on Sundays, because football is always a challenge. I wish you all the best. I'll be watching every Sunday. Thank you very much.
And that's it.
That was it.
Man of many words.
Wow.
Yeah.
A whole, what'd you say, 59 seconds?
59 seconds, I think it was.
So one of the most iconic
Under a
moments
minute.
in Cowboys history, the beginning of the Court of Honor, the Ring of Honor, and Bob Lilley's acceptance speech was 59 whole seconds. Man,
that's amazing.
That's really cool.
It is, and we've got some cool stuff coming up with him. Like, as you know, we went out and interviewed him recently, and
with Bob.
Yeah, he's still got some great stories to tell. He's an amazing man. So I think throughout the season, him and some other players, we're gonna have some cool stuff.
And actually, if you're here at the Star, you go to the Omni, eat at Neighborhood Services, great food. And there's a locker.
You getting a free meal out of this or something?
No. Maybe I should after this. There's a locker there in a big case, and it's one of the Forest Lane training facility lockers, an original one. Inside it has Bob Lilley's actual used shoulder pads from the mid-'60s and some of his knee and thigh pads. And you can see the 74 still written on. There's actual ones.
I did not know that. Did you know that?
No.
I've eaten over there several times, and I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out.
And if you're on the tour, if you look closely, you might see a pair of Bob Lilley shoes if you come tour the Star.
Oh.
They won't tell you that they're there, but you'll probably be able to figure it out.
You want to tell everybody where they're at?
They're right behind us.
There.
Oh, the man.
Really?
Those are the real deal.
On the mannequins outside the podcast studio. That's his real shoes?
That's from 1966.
On his
cleats.
On his actual uniform? Wow.
Yep.
That's really cool.
So those little hidden mysteries we did around this place.
So don't be coming trying to steal those shoes now that you know that.
It's on camera.
Several cameras.
Yeah.
Well, go to DallasCowboys.com/1960. We're building out a page. There's going to be several videos up there over the course of the year. We have one that we launched this morning that's actually got Bob Lilley in it. We went around. Kurt did the majority of the interviews. Went around to Randy White's in it, Michael Irvin, DeMarcus Ware, Jason Witten,
really spanning the
Cliff
generations.
Harris, Emmett. I mean, it's really cool, and I think we just went into that project with the vision of we wanted to have a video to kick off this birthday video basically, and as we started talking to these guys, we figured out these can be kind of standalone videos themselves because there were so many good stories and so much history in them. So we're actually, I think, going to spin off and do a series where we do at least one. Some of them, like DeMarcus, we could do 10 different ones because he had so much great stuff. But be on the lookout for those. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with Jonathan the rest of the year, but, at least a couple of times a month. Hell, we might do it once a week.
Yeah.
We got this much good stuff. So,
Jonathan's working on a documentary. It's going to air in August about this formation of the team, and this stuff is just the very, very tip of the iceberg of what he's got. I mean, there's some amazing stuff that will be in that documentary, and then throughout the rest of the season that fans will get a chance to listen to and see. I mean, it's going to be amazing.
I mean, you've got phone calls and all kind of stuff.
Got all kinds of stuff, and most of it's never been seen or heard by the public before.
Wow,
tells a lot of the backstory of how they came up with this idea and how they executed, what they were going to do if they got the franchise, how they were going to do it, what the challenges were.
Some of it is so top secret that we tried to use some of it on this first show, and we were told no because they want to save it for this documentary. So
sorry about that.
So that's how cool of stuff we're going to try to get on this show. We might get it shot down the majority of the time, but we're going to try to keep that going the coming weeks.
And the things I bring aren't all going to be old. Some of it's going to be through the eras, so things you'll know and remember.
Cool.
Well, awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day.
Next time you see Bob, we need to ask him what happened to the dog Is the car still running?
Does he still have the gun?
Has the gun still used?
He used to lift cars, so maybe he's slung it around a little bit. Who knows?
Well, Kurt,
one cleanup.
Yes.
Witten did break. It was Lilley's record that he held.
It was Lilley's record.
Until Witten.
Consecutive starts.
That was 2 years.
He held it a long time ago.
2 years ago when he did that? The year before he...
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he played a couple more years than Bob, didn't he? I think.
Well,
we're also forgetting they were played 12-game seasons
Right.
and then 14-game seasons.
Yep.
True.
Well, Kurt, thanks, man.
Thank you,
I guess
sir.
I'll see you tomorrow on Hanging with the
That's
Boys.
right.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for stopping down and producing this on a moment's notice for us. Happy birthday, Dallas Cowboys. January the 28th, 1960. So we'll be back at some point. Not sure when. It'll be me, Kurt, Jonathan. You on board for doing this the rest of the year?
I'd love to. As long as I'm asked, I'll be here.
You're in.
I'll be here.
All three of us. And Kyle, you're welcome to produce as much as you want.
Oh, thanks, guys.
You're welcome, man. All right, we'll be back at some point with what are we going to call this?
I don't know. We got to figure that out, don't we?
60th anniversary year-long special right here.
There you
on
go.
DallasCowboys.com.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!